I've been seeing people talk about male loneliness again, and every time this conversation comes around, something about it bothers me. Not because I don't think men are lonely, I think plenty of them are. It's because somehow we took loneliness, probably one of the most human emotions somebody can experience, and turned it into another internet argument. Men are lonely because women have unrealistic standards. No, men are lonely because they don't know how to communicate. No, it's dating apps. No, it's masculinity. No, it's feminism. No, it's porn. No, it's the economy. Everybody shows up with their little PowerPoint presentation explaining whose fault it is. Meanwhile, there's some dude sitting in his apartment on a Tuesday night thinking, okay, cool, what the hell am I supposed to do? That's the part I think we're missing, because you can win the argument about why men are lonely and still leave lonely men exactly where you found them. And I should probably say this up front. I don't think women are responsible for fixing male loneliness. I also don't think telling lonely men to just make friends is particularly useful. That's like telling somebody who's broke, have you considered getting more money? Oh, good looking out. Never crossed my mind. The interesting question isn't whether men need stronger relationships. Obviously they do. The interesting question is why so many men seem to reach adulthood without knowing how to build them. Because when I think back to being younger, friendship was almost automatic. You didn't schedule it. You just existed around the same people every day. School did most of the work for you. You'd see your boys Monday through Friday. Somebody had a basketball. Somebody had a PlayStation. Somebody's mom had food in the house. Boom. Social life. Nobody sent a calendar invite. Then adulthood happens and suddenly everybody disappears. One friend gets married, another moves away, somebody has a kid, somebody starts working 60 hours a week, one dude gets a girlfriend and enters the witness protection program. You text him 6 months later like, bro, you still alive? Yeah, man, we should definitely catch up. You never catch up. And slowly, without anybody really noticing, the infrastructure that created your friendships disappears. I think that's a huge part of this conversation. Because men are strange with friendship. I can have a friend I haven't spoken to in 8 months, see him tomorrow, and within 15 minutes, we're talking like nothing happened. And in one sense, that's beautiful. But in another sense, that's probably part of the problem. We're very good at maintaining the idea of friendship without actually maintaining the relationship. We'll say, that's my brother. When's the last time you called him? Man, it's been a minute. How long is a minute? Like 14 months. Bruh, call that man. And I'm guilty of it too. That's why I don't want to sit here pretending I've cracked some secret code. There have been periods of my life where I've looked around and realized most of my social interaction was happening through a screen. Group chats make this especially deceptive because technically you're talking to people all day. Somebody sends a meme, somebody reacts with a crying emoji, somebody starts arguing about basketball. You contribute your extremely important opinion and it feels social. But then you put your phone down and the room is quiet. That's different. I don't think human beings were built to experience friendship primarily through notifications. And this is where I think the dating conversation gets mixed into loneliness, because for a lot of men, a girlfriend becomes their entire emotional ecosystem. She's the person they talk to, the person they go places with, the person they tell things to, the person they touch, the person who asks how their day went, the person who remembers their birthday. And then if that relationship ends, they're not just losing a girlfriend, they're losing their best friend, social life, emotional support, and weekend plans at the exact same time. That's a hell of a withdrawal. And then we wonder why some guys completely fall apart after breakups. It's not always because she was the love of his life. Sometimes she was just his entire life. That's something I didn't understand when I was younger. I used to think independence meant needing nobody. Now I think that's probably one of the dumbest definitions of independence we ever came up with. Being capable of standing alone is useful. Building a life where you always have to stand alone is something else entirely. And I think men sometimes confuse the two. There's this image of the strong man who handles everything himself. Doesn't complain, doesn't need reassurance, doesn't bother anybody with his problems. Sounds cool until life actually hits him. Your dad gets sick, you lose your job, your relationship ends. You start questioning what you're doing with your life, and suddenly that whole I don't need anybody philosophy gets real quiet. Because everybody needs somebody. That doesn't make you weak. That's just being a mammal. Even wolves have friends, man. And before somebody turns this into men need to open up more, I think that's only part of it too. Because I've noticed something about guys. A lot of male bonding happens sideways. Women will sometimes sit across from each other and talk directly about what's happening in their lives. Guys often need something happening in the middle. We're playing basketball, working on something, driving somewhere, watching the game, playing Call of Duty, and somewhere between talking trash and complaining about the referee, somebody casually says, "Yeah, me and my girl broke up." Nobody stops the entire room. Nobody lights a candle. It's usually something like, "Damn, bro, you good? Yeah. You sure? Yeah, man." Then 20 minutes later, you're actually talking about it. That's still emotional connection. It just doesn't always look like therapy. And I think sometimes we make the mistake of telling men the way they naturally connect isn't good enough. Maybe instead of constantly telling men to communicate like somebody else, we should help men create more places where communication happens naturally. That's why I think gyms matter, sports matter, clubs matter, churches matter for people who are religious, gaming communities can matter, work friendships matter. Hell, even having one coffee shop where people know your name probably matters more than we realize. We need places where you can become a regular human being around other regular human beings, because friendship usually isn't created through one deep conversation. It's repetition. Seeing somebody Tuesday, then Thursday, then next Tuesday. Eventually you know each other. That's how most relationships form. And modern life has quietly removed a lot of that repetition. We work remotely. We order food to our doors. We shop online. We watch movies at home. We date through apps. We can go entire weekends without needing to speak to another person. Convenient, absolutely healthy. Man, I don't know. Sometimes I think we've optimized modern life to eliminate every unnecessary human interaction and then acted surprised when everybody got lonely. Think about how weird that is. We invented technology so you never have to talk to the cashier, never have to ask somebody for directions, never have to walk into a store, never have to approach somebody you find attractive, never even have to call a restaurant. Then we're sitting there like, why does everybody feel disconnected? I mean, come on. Maybe some friction was doing something for us. Maybe the random conversations we considered inconvenient were part of what made life feel populated. And here's where I know some guys aren't gonna like me. I do think men have some responsibility here. Not blame, responsibility. Those are different words. Maybe society has become more isolating. Maybe dating apps have made things harder. Maybe social media screwed with everybody's expectations. Maybe communities aren't what they used to be. Fine, what are you going to do about it? Because at some point, understanding why you're lonely has to become less important than doing something that makes you less lonely. Call somebody, actually call them, ask your friend if he wants to grab food, join something, go somewhere consistently. Be the dude who organizes things instead of wondering why nobody invited you. That's one I had to learn. Everybody waits for somebody else to make the plan, then everybody sits home. Sometimes you gotta be the annoying guy in the group chat going, "Saturday, 7 o'clock, we're going out. Stop giving me excuses." Somebody has to do it. And yeah, sometimes people will say no. Sometimes you'll reach out and feel stupid. Sometimes you'll show up somewhere new and spend the first 20 minutes wondering why you came. That's the price of connection. There's vulnerability involved. Not necessarily crying vulnerability, just the vulnerability of saying, "Hey, you wanna hang out?" We don't talk about that enough. Because rejection doesn't only happen romantically. Trying to make friends as an adult can feel awkward as hell. You meet a cool dude somewhere and you're basically thinking, how do I ask this grown man for his number without making this sound like I'm asking him on a date? Nobody prepared us for this, but you figure it out. And I think that's why I get frustrated when the male loneliness conversation immediately becomes men versus women, because now we're doing the exact thing loneliness already does, separating people. Some lonely guy watches 50 videos telling him women don't care about men. Some lonely woman watches 50 videos telling her men are emotionally defective. Both of them put their phones down, feeling slightly more suspicious of the other half of humanity. Who exactly did we help? Nobody. We just gave loneliness an enemy. And enemies are incredibly comforting because they mean you don't have to confront the harder possibility. Maybe nobody is coming to build your life for you. That's scary, but there's something freeing about it too. Because if nobody's coming, you can stop waiting. I don't think the answer to male loneliness is women lowering their standards. I don't think it's men becoming more feminine. I don't think it's another podcast explaining why society is doomed. I think it's probably much more boring than that. Men need friends. Men need purpose. Men need places to go. Men need people who notice when they haven't shown up. Men need something on Wednesday night besides scrolling. And yeah, romantic love matters too. Of course it does. Wanting a girlfriend, wife, intimacy, sex, family, whatever, doesn't make somebody pathetic. Those are normal human desires. But a woman can't be your entire cure for loneliness. That's too much pressure to put on another person. You need a life she can join, not an empty room you're hoping she'll fill. Maybe that's the part we've been missing. We keep treating loneliness like an argument to solve. Maybe it's a life to rebuild. One phone call, one friendship, one uncomfortable invitation, one Wednesday night at a time. Because eventually I think the question has to stop being whose fault is it that men are lonely and become something much more useful. What are we actually going to do about it? That's just my 2 cents, man. I hope you guys found some value in the video. Like and subscribe if you mess with this type of content. It's your boy Jose, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.